I stopped drinking completely. I've been sober for over 2 years, and that really flipped the switch. And I turned into this exercise freak. I wake up at 3:45 every morning. I'm at the gym. I eat clean, no cheat meals. I competed in two bodybuilding events, which came out of nowhere. Just decided to do it.
All right, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the 1% Podcast. I'm your host, Vin, and
I'm Shane.
And today we're joined by my man, Andy Rangel. What's up, brother? Welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
Of course, dude. Well, listen, we met a little while ago back on a mastermind that we were in. We had a great time together, and now I'm extremely fascinated by what it is that you're doing, but I'm going to save that for you to tell. Andy, please tell the audience a little about yourself, what you're up to, what you're building, and let them get to know you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm based here in Miami, Florida. I've been selling the luxury experience since 2008, primarily in the travel industry, selling luxury cruises all over the world. And that led me into what I'm doing now, which is selling yachts. I started off selling yacht charters, which was a spin-off off of selling luxury cruises. And then that led into selling the yachts as well. So that's what I'm currently doing based out of Miami, Florida, but we do business internationally.
And you have can we also get a little bit into you, not only what you're doing, but what you're about? Because you have a really interesting story. You're this guy, listen, people, if you can't see this guy, just check out his freaking Instagram. The guy is shredded, man. He's the guy that every guy aspires to be in those fitness magazines. So, Ray, tell the people a little more about the guy behind the yacht.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I grew up playing baseball since I was 4 years old. So I've always been active, always been an athletic type person, always exercising. But as of the past, I say 2 to 3 years, I took that up a notch, right? I stopped drinking completely. I've been sober for over 2 years, and that really flipped the switch. And I turned into this exercise freak. I wake up at 3:45 every morning. I'm at the gym. I eat clean, no cheat meals. I competed in two bodybuilding events, which came out of nowhere. Just decided to do it. So yeah, just living a really, really clean life, full of purpose, and just eliminating the alcohol aspect of it just made it that much easier for me to do. I always tried, the fitness and the eating right and all of that, but the alcohol part always kind of got in the way of that. But once you eliminate that completely, it's like a whole new ballgame.
I'm curious, do you think, and this, I don't know why this just came up, do you think that your physique being the way it is helps you in luxury sales?
Yeah, 100%. It's your first impression when you walk in the door. People like to, not really go that route and talk about it and be like, oh, really get to know the person. But it's the first impression when they walk through the door. You see someone walk in and you're like, I want to do business with that guy. But you see someone walk in and they're 300 pounds, they're overweight, they're not dressed well, you kind of second guess it. But someone walks in, they look professional, clean cut, well groomed, and they take care of themselves. It just speaks volumes of that person, right? Like if they're able to take care of themselves like that, they're going to take care of whatever business it is that you're doing with them.
People eat with their eyes first, man. Sex sells.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing new. This has been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Actually, people don't like to talk about it, but it's the truth.
I mean, only before that is you were determined wealthy when you were fat back in the Roman period. And then it's like, we don't want to do this anymore. Let's start being fit and taking care of our body, mind, and soul. But sex sells. That's just,
yep.
Yeah, no way about it. Even for men, I feel like men are attracted to men in a non-sexual way. It's more of like, I want to be that guy. So I'm going to pay attention and listen more to what he has to say because I want to be like him. It's weird.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's like whenever you see like a guy that drives a Corvette, it attracts more dudes than it does with girls because guys are like, ooh, look at that car. Yeah, I want that right there.
Huh,
and I can relate to that. I used to have a Corvette. I used to have a Camaro Z01. I was in the car group with all the guys, and it's what you just said is 100%.
That's interesting. I wonder, could that have a backside, especially when you're dealing with luxury? Because as I work with a lot of high level people who have, the money to afford luxuries. And I find that not all of them, but there are a lot of people that have a good deal of money that can afford luxuries. that have terrible mindsets and some crazy egos. Do you see that maybe there's an aversiveness to your success and your ability to build your body and be a great salesperson, and you get these guys that kind of have that flip response of like, who's this guy think he is with his abs trying to sell me a yacht?
I mean, yeah, I can see that, but there are some people that put appearance to the side, and they're like, I've got all the money in the world. Why do I need to put the time and effort into the gym and eating right? I've got everything that I want, and then give it a couple years go by, and money's not going to make you happy at the end of the day. You got to make yourself happy. You gotta you got to be there mentally and healthily 100%, not only for you and your finances, but for your family as well. Because the money could only get you so far. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people, when they start making a lot of money, they kind of let other things go because they're just focused on that. And they're like, why do I need to worry about that? I got all the money. That's my main goal. Then they forget about all the other stuff. And then the health kicks in, the relationships kick in, and they're like, damn, I kind of fucked up here.
I can
Yeah.
uh, I can contest to that too. When I first actually started this podcast with Vin, I was 283. Now I'm
Mhm.
238, and that's
There you
actually
go.
helped because of Vin too. Right? When it's just when you take care of your health, I think that's the most important thing. The rest kind of comes, your mind, your body, your
Hmm.
soul. They kind of all come in balance when you take care of your health first.
Yep.
I'm very interested here because, first off, I want to hear more about your story about how you came into this. I know you selling cruise, but I feel like, luxury cruises to selling yachts. Like, there's got to be something here where you're like, because you're going from here, right? Where you're talking about luxury cruises. I'm thinking anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000, right? Based on how long it is. As far as
Hmm.
package deals, maybe six figures. But now we're talking about yachts. We're talking about, right, 6 to 8 figures, sometimes 9 figures, right? Depends on how P. Diddy crazy we want to get here. But how did you get to this point, to this extreme? Like, did it just fall in your lap, and like, did you just grasp it and like, this is what I'm doing now? Can you walk me through this a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So selling the luxury cruises was a corporate job, right? I worked for Norwegian Cruise Line, Silver Sea Cruises, Crystal Cruises, so like big players in the game, right? And you could only go so far there as a salesperson. Um, I don't want to say that you're capped out, but you kind of are capped out when you're looking at other segments like selling yachts. So I was a top performer, top salesperson for year after year after year, making good money. But I was looking for something else. I was looking to break out of that corporate structure. Because, like I said, you're kind of capped on how much you can actually continue to sell and the freedom. You know what I mean? On that corporate side, it's like a 9 to 5, right? You're stuck in your cubicle, you're there working, you want to take some time off, it has to be approved. Like, I didn't want to do that anymore. So I was looking to make a move, looking to make a change. And a buddy of mine has a yacht company and very good friend of mine. And he knew that I was looking to make a move. And he knew that I know how to sell luxury. I know how to sell the experience. And that's what you do when you sell a yacht charter, right? The only difference is instead of a cruise that accommodates 100 to 400 guests, now you're selling a yacht that is just you and your family, up to 12 guests. That's the only thing that changes. You're still selling the luxury experience. You're still selling the geography of where they're going. So he knew that I can take on that task. So we started talking. Next thing you know, I'm working with him, selling yacht charters, and you're already selling the yacht charters. Why not get your license to sell the yachts as well? So that's how that transition happened.
And how long ago was that?
2019, 2020, so like 5 years.
So this is still like new and exciting on a very big scale and level too. Like 5, 6 years for this dramatical growth. Like, talk about a great ride. And instead of spending your money on crap and shit like alcohol and drugs and, I mean, maybe women, I don't know really what your poison is. But you decided to go clean eating, focus internally, and I mean, even do a couple of bodybuilding competitions. Like, how did this level of success and money not change you? I'm just generally curious.
Yeah, so I knew that there was more to give, right? So no matter how successful I was, how much money was being made, how many deals were happening, like I always knew that there was more that I could give. And what was stopping me from reaching that was the alcohol. So once I cut that out, just blew up. So that was it, is waking up every morning knowing that there's that much more that I can give, but I'm not reaching it because there's something that's holding me back. And that was the alcohol.
Who
Interesting.
is this man? Who is this
Hmm.
man, Ben? Who did you bring here?
It's Andy Rangel, bro. So
Yes. And Saint.
I so it's Saint Andy, exactly. So I actually have a bit of a question based on what you were saying about, selling these luxury items. I'm curious, what are some of the maybe strategies or tactics or skills that you had to learn as a salesperson for luxury items? Because one of the things that makes selling luxury items so interesting is, one, you're selling something to somebody who doesn't need it. And two, they're usually higher ticket, which means the bigger price point, the bigger the objections. I would love to get some of that info for the audience here. Like, can you give us some of the strategies or the things you had to learn to just really get into the ability to sell to, one, people who don't need to sell, and two, what kind of objections you might have to overcome?
Yeah, so I mean, it's all relationship based at the end of the day. As you said, these people have all the money in the world. It's not something that they really need. It's more something that they want. So you got to find those trigger points, right? And really understand these people and ask the right questions. Okay, you want to go on a charter. Why do you want to go on a charter? Like,
Mm,
what's the reason behind it? When I was selling cruises, there was, someone went on a website. They want to go to the Caribbean. They call me. All right, we got the deal done. But now it's like, okay, you're going to spend $500,000 on a week-long trip with your family. Let's really make sure this is what you want. And it's a whole different process. You got to understand who they are, what they want, why they want it.
mm,
Sometimes the deal doesn't happen because as you start asking more questions, they start telling you certain things and it just doesn't make sense for them to do it. You have to pivot and go a completely different route. Um, but the hardest part is just getting in front of that person, right? So it's like I said, it's all relationship based because there's hundreds, and I don't want to say hundreds, maybe it is hundreds, but there's a lot of brokers out there, and they're all targeting the same people. So it's how do you get in front of them?
Hmm.
And that's, being in the right room at the right time, speaking to the right people, and not leading with a sale first because they smell that from a mile away. If you walk in trying to sell something, you're done. Like you got to walk in saying, "Hey, I'm going to help this guy do whatever it is that he wants to do. Even if that means that I'm not going to make a sale, but it's going to get me that much closer to him and whoever he leads me to." And that's the way that you got to think, intentional instead of transactional.
So, question for you: what was maybe one of the most, I guess, interesting objections that you've ever encountered and or overcome? Do you recall?
Sure. So, I mean, a lot of these guys, when it comes to, and I don't want to say the bigger yachts, right? I'm talking about more the 500,000 to a million price point and selling a yacht, not chartering a yacht. Um, they feel and they believe that they can sell the boat themselves, which I mean they can, but why would they want to do that? Like they're spending their time and effort doing something that we're the professionals at doing it, right? So that's the number one objection that we always get is when you're trying to get a listing is why am I going to have you do it? I can just do this myself with Facebook Marketplace that you have these days, and you go on Boat Trader and start listing the boats. And I mean, it's quote unquote easy. Yeah, you can post the boat, but there's so much more behind it that goes into it. So that's the biggest objection that we get is them being able to do it themselves. Why am I going to pay you 10% when I can just do it on my own? Well, if I can get you the money that you need or even more, does it really matter if you pay me 10% or even if you pay me 20? Like I'm selling it for you. I'm getting you the money that you want, maybe even more, and you
Hmm.
don't even have to lift a finger. What does it matter what you pay me? You're getting what you need. You're getting what you want.
I imagine that's a lot of selling the experience, right? It's about, yeah, you could do it yourself, but now you have to negotiate with idiots all day. Now you have to
Yeah,
haggle with the guy. Now you have to be there when somebody wants to come see it. And what if you're busy, right? Like it's about giving them what they want back, to your point, which is
exactly.
probably time.
Yeah, so you start asking the questions and why do you want to do this? Well, because, I want to make X amount of money and I got to pay you 10%. Okay, well, let's put that to the side. What goes into selling this boat? You're going to have to be there for all the showings. You're going to have to know the boat in and out. You're going to have to answer all these questions, field all these inquiries from all these buyers who might not even be buyers. They might just be tire kickers. And that's a whole nother part of it is you got to do the same song and dance with all the inquiries that come in. Like, come on, you don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Like that's what I get paid for, you know? So it's painting that whole picture and then reminding them that, hey, remember when you bought this yacht? remember that process that you went through to buy this yacht? You're gonna have to do that with 20 inquiries or more.
Right.
You really want to do that? You know what I mean?
Makes
Reminds
sense.
me of, like, I'm assuming you're Airbnb in these yachts as well, right? If I like, hey, if I'm dropping down 7 figures on this yacht, would you be able to rent it out for me and I keep my yacht with you and, do charters there? Because it sounds like a win-win. I make money. It sounds like a rental property at the same point. Like, I feel like that's almost like a win.
Yeah, so it's full service what we do. We handle the transaction, whether they're buying the boat or selling the boat. We handle the charter as well, the charter management. We handle the service as well. Not we don't actually do the service, but the maintenance, making
Yep.
sure that the service is being done. We do all of that for them. And then the beauty of the charter is it helps them offset their expenses,
Yep.
right? Buy a boat, it's going to cost you 10% of whatever that boat costs you to maintain it. Well, let's charter it, get you some good charters, proper endorsements, do everything legally, and now you're offsetting your costs, and
Mm.
you get to write it off at the end of the year as well.
Oh,
I'm
really?
curious. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Shane's about to buy a
Yeah.
yacht. I'm not
Oh,
joking.
really?
Yeah. Well, disclaimer: I am not giving financial advice, right? But yeah, when you charter your yacht properly, fully
Oh,
documented,
charter your yacht.
license. Yeah. So you own a yacht.
That's a business. I get that. But if I'm
Yeah.
buying the yacht for personal reasons, it's not a write off. But if I'm buying a yacht as a business to charter it off and put it under appropriate LLC, it now becomes a business. I see that.
Yeah. Well, you would do both, right? You buy the yacht under a corporation, you charter it out, but you can still use it yourself. You're not limited to not being able to use it. Does that make sense?
Right. As long as I had intentions of chartering it out.
Correct.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that
Can't
makes
just buy it and not charter it and then write it off. That would be a no-no. But you can write it off two different ways. One is as a second
sense.
home, right? So you get a mortgage on the boat. If it has full living facility, right? It has a bedroom, kitchen, bathroom. You can live on this boat. You can write it off as a second mortgage. Or you go the business route where you charter the boat. You have everything fully documented, and then at the end of the year, write it off.
Oh, I got a question for you. Wait, and of course, not financial advice, but if you know about the Augusta rule, technically, you could host the people that you would utilize the Augusta rule with. Could you do it on the yacht because it would have like a living situation to it? Like, what if you didn't do it as
Um,
a business?
what if you didn't do the charter as a business?
Right. So like the Augusta rule, for any of you listening who aren't familiar with the Augusta rule says that you can host a mastermind a few times a year, pay yourself. You can host the mastermind out of your home, pay yourself a fee for hosting it, and then that's a write-off. So in theory, if you had this charter or this yacht as your home, could you do that with the Augusta rule?
If the yacht has a second, if you do the second mortgage thing with your
Yeah.
yacht, right? It
Yeah.
can't just be, a large center console, right?
Right.
It can't be a boat that has one cabin and, a small hall, a small bathroom with a limited kitchen. It has to be a livable yacht.
Right.
And then you can do that.
I
Damn,
love
Shane.
I love how he said a large center council.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, listen,
I know what you mean.
there's large center consoles these days. Like Scout just came out with a 65-foot center console. Like
What?
that.
Put a
It's
bathroom and a half closet in there and call it a day.
so as
Um,
long as you have a full living quarters, right? You can sleep in there, you can cook in there, and not just like a small microwave. Like you gotta have a full kitchen,
right.
um, shower, bathroom. You can write that off.
I I want to transition this conversation here before Vin sells me into a yacht and we have
Shane, you got to get us a yacht.
until we have a full conversation about why I should buy a yacht.
I know a guy you could buy it from too.
And Andy overcomes all my objections right here and there. I want to talk about your corporate life and your entrepreneurship life and that mindset shift that you went to. Have you been in a corporate setting until 2019 or 2020 until you started this entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah, since 2008. I was in corporate in 2008 till 2019.
Oh, and then before that you were entrepreneurship or own businesses
Oh,
or
no. Before that, I was straight out of high school. I graduated in 2005.
Okay, so
Yeah, I
perfect. All right.
graduated 2005. Between '05 and '08, I went to the military, had odd jobs here and there, retail, just regular stuff, and then 2008 is when I got into selling cruises. First real job.
Well, thank you for your service. And so you've been essentially in this corporate setting this entire time.
Mhm.
Was it scary transitioning into not guaranteeing anything, right? It sounds like you almost went into a business partnership, or did he offer you a salary with a small percentage here? Or was it straight like, let's run this together, but I can't guarantee anything? And like, I just want to know because majority of our audience are either entrepreneurs, business owners, or they're wanting to make that leap. Like they
Sure.
have this corporate setting. They're just afraid to say, I need to go all in. I need to put both feet in. So I'm trying to get you to explain that like mental transition that you made from going to this high paying job into what? Into nothing, into a low salary. Like what was that?
Sure. So it was a low salary, but it was a scary transition, right? So going into, this yacht business to run the charter department, it was a brand new brokerage that had just started, right? Like I didn't know how many leads were going to be coming in. I didn't know, like I didn't have my own book of business, right? Like working at the cruise line for so long, yeah, they feed you leads on a daily basis, but eventually you start building your own book of business. You don't even need their leads, even though they're still coming in. You go into yachting. I don't have a book of business because the people that are booking these cruises can't book these yacht charters, right? So that book of business doesn't count. And leads, what leads am I going to get? It's a brand new yacht brokerage,
Yeah.
So it was scary going into that, but I did have a small salary, so that definitely helped. But you just had to go out there and grind and, find deals. I was walking the docks. And what that means is I was going to marinas, walking up and down the docks and trying to meet yacht owners, trying to meet captains, crew, and just getting my name out there.
That's the 1% right there, man. You do what
Hmm.
99% of people don't like to do, which is cold calling, getting yourself
Yeah.
out there, doing the uncomfortable, shaking hands, kissing babies, as they like to say. That's amazing. And I like that you essentially jumped in with a dramatical salary decrease and just never look back. And you're just like, I'm making this work and I'm hitting the pavement running.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I still cold call. You know what I mean? I find lists of people that are selling boats on their own, private seller trying to sell it on their own, and I reach out to them directly. It's a cold call, right? At the end of the day, is it warm? Yeah, because they're already selling their boat, so I already know that part. But it's still a cold call at the end of the day, reaching out to this person that's trying to sell their boat on their own and think, hey, who are you? No, I'm not a buyer. I'm not trying to buy your boat. I'm trying to help you sell it, right? I do that on a daily basis.
I do know a VA company that I'd really recommend to take care of your cold calling for you if you're ever interested in delegating.
I might
Right?
know.
Full
It's
call, full call.
interesting. This podcast is really cool because I might know a guy who should buy a yacht, and I know a guy that could sell a yacht, and then I might know a guy that needs a VA, and I know somebody who has those. Interesting.
There you go.
So I got a question for you. Cold calling is a really interesting thing, and it's also something that a lot of people fear. How do you transmute rejection? How do you take the failures? How do you move from failure to failure without a loss of enthusiasm to keep yourself energized and moving?
So going back to 2008 when I worked at Norwegian Cruise Line,
Mm,
okay, it was a lot of cold calling, right? We would get 10 to 15 new leads per day, but you know how many calls we had to make on a daily basis?
Hundreds.
150.
Yeah.
ooh.
150. So there was a lot of no's happening back in 2008, 2009. So I just got used to it. And Bob Becker was his name. So Bob Becker is like the pioneer of the cruising industry when it comes to building outbound sales departments. That's who trained me. That's who I learned pretty much all my sales from. Still talk to him to this day. Great guy. So one very important piece of information, if you will, that he gave me is each no is a step closer to yes. So that's the way that I looked at it, right? Is every time someone told me I'm not interested or whatever it was that they were telling me, I just knew that I was that much closer to my next sale. That's the way that I look at it to this day. I might not be making 150 calls per day, But every no that I get, I know that I'm that much closer to the yes.
It's really the only mentality you can have, right?
Yeah.
Anything else is going to steer you wrong. And then the only true thing to objection handling is keeping them on the call. That's
Hmm.
really it.
Mm.
The longer they're on the call and they're not saying F you, you're like, okay, so we're ready.
Yeah.
What card did you want to
Absolutely.
put this on? Well, objection, objection, objection. Okay, what card would you like to put this on?
Exactly.
That's just how it is. Keep them on them.
Yep.
And that's when you started out cold calling, that's my background as well. You're trained that way. You're like, I'm
Mhm.
not letting this person go. Right?
Yep.
They're
That's
hanging
exactly
up
it.
on me or cussing me out. Other than that, they're signing the deal. We're calling it a
Yep.
deal.
And you're always asking for the sale, right?
Oh yeah.
Always asking for it.
Yeah.
It's funny because a lot of people get scared to ask. And I used to, train people and I'd be like, yo, just ask them for the sale. Just ask them. And they're looking at me like super scared, like, no, they're not ready. I'm like, yo, trust me, just ask them for the sale. And you'd be surprised how many times they'd ask me for the sale. And they're like, oh, yeah, hold on, I got my card right here. I'm like, I told you, man, just ask for it.
If you really want to look at the hindsight, look at where you're at now and the people that where they're at now when they were afraid to ask for the sale.
Hmm.
What
Yep.
what's what do you mean for those who are listening, right, who might not understand? What do you mean by ask for the sale? Is it the brazen outright, like, so are you ready to buy this, or is it a more like, are you committed to this? Like, how do you ask for a sale?
So going to the cruising industry, right? Because we're making the sale right there on that call. The question was, what credit card would you like to use to secure your suite? Boom,
Mm,
there.
What card did
And
you
then
want to
they'll give you an objection or they're gonna give you the card.
mm,
This is
interesting.
exactly what I do. It's the same thing to this day. All right,
Yeah.
so and it's always a silence, and you need to lead that call. When there's silence, is it okay, Andy? So what card did you want to put this on? Nothing. You look down. If it's face to face, you're ready to put the information in, or you just shut up.
Yeah.
And what's the psychological trick behind that? Do you feel like people at that point they have trouble objecting, or like how do you guys come to the conclusion that that just works? Like, so what's your card and put your head down? Why does that work?
It's a trial close at the end of the day. Either they're ready to commit and you know it, so you're asking for the sale and it's easy, or you don't know and that's your trial close. You're asking them and you're either going to get an objection and you know why they're not going to close, or you're going to get the close. So, but if you don't ask that question, they're just going to put you off and say, all right, let's talk next week, or I got to talk to my wife. But if you ask for the sale, something's going to come out of it. They're not just going to stay quiet. Something will happen.
Mm,
How I train my sales reps is you got to mentally prepare that you're going to go into a boxing ring. That you just have to know that objection handlings are going to come. So when you're mentally prepared for that, you know the 4 or 5 common objections that are always asked, and you know how to overcome them. You know how to take the lead, and you know how to ask for the sale. Now, when you're in the boxing ring for 4 or 5 rounds, right? When it's like, well, let me think about it, and you overcome that. Well, I don't know about the price, and you overcome that. There's going to be a point where you've overcome everything and they're still on the call. So now I have nothing else to say. You've
Mhm.
essentially defeated me. So what card did you want to put this on, Ben? It's like, what else do I say? MasterCard. You guys take MasterCard? Oh, yeah.
Yep.
we take them all. So here's another question. Okay. And I find sales intriguing, and I hope our listeners are learning something, because sales is everything. If you can't sell, you'll never have a business or a company
Sales
or
is
anything realistically, right?
absolutely everything.
So how do you know? Like you said, and I love that phrasing, right? Of this is really, I think, key to creating that mindset shift of every no is one step closer to a yes. But how do you know when you're getting no's because you suck at selling the thing, like you're not providing the value, or you're getting no's because of the fact that, I don't know, people are just quick to hang up on you and things like that, right? Like, how would somebody who's out there trying to sell navigate the difference between the fact that they don't know what the hell they need to do to sell, or they're just maybe hitting unqualified people, etc.? Like, what was a realization for you in making that understanding?
Hmm. That's a good question. Um, I guess the objections are more real, right? Like instead of someone just saying, I'm not ready, like those are people who are probably never really gonna buy, right? Like not ready. What does that mean? Right? When will you be ready? But
Mm,
when you start getting real objections, right? Like we're talking about a yacht charter, right? Okay. Uh, I got to see if the dates work. My daughter might be getting married that week. Like that's a legit objection. Someone didn't just pull that out of their ass, right? We already went to Italy. I want to see if maybe we go to Spain. Like the objections start becoming more real, and it's not just someone putting you off to the side. Like you have something to work towards. So that's why you always ask when you don't get the sale, and they're like, all right, follow up with me in a week. Okay, well, if you don't mind me asking,
What's going to
what
change?
are we going to talk about? Yeah. What are we going to talk about next week? So I can be prepared, right? You bring the guard down so I can be
Mm.
prepared. And then they'll tell you why they need to talk in a week, right? If they don't really have an answer, then they're kind of just putting you off. Oh, just call me next week. I'm not ready now. Okay. You're going to be ready in a week. What's going to change? So you start asking those questions. And sometimes asking those questions, people are scared to ask those questions like, oh, this person's going to think I'm like being too intrusive or this and that, but you're not. You're just having a conversation. Like if someone tells me, oh, call me next
Mm.
week. All right, I'll call you next week. That's fine. But what's holding you back from making the sale, from booking this today?
Right.
And then they'll tell you, or they won't tell you. But you always ask them, what's holding you back from doing this right now, from doing this thing?
Love
So
it.
refreshing talking to somebody who actually knows sales. I do want to reiterate though that there is some objections that me personally, I will reschedule for the next day. When it's something like talking to my wife and it's like, okay, so your wife is, a crucial point in your business. Yeah, she's my business partner. Okay, that makes
Mm.
complete sense. Let's schedule a call tomorrow. I have this and this available. What's your wife's email? And then you get it back on a call. It's the same thing with a business partner. For big, especially, I don't know if Andy can contest with this as well. You can go hard on these types of objections if you want to essentially say, would your business partner agree? But when you're talking about a yacht charter, I'm pretty sure everybody needs to be on the same page dropping that kind of cash. So you want to get all the decision makers on the call right then and there. That's really it
Yep.
around decision makers.
Mm.
Yep.
I don't know how
So you
this.
can take it a step further, right? So let's say we're talking about a yacht charter, right? And they want to book something a year from now in Croatia. I'm talking to the husband, and he's like, "Oh, I got to talk to my wife about it." Okay, sure. After you talk to your wife about it and she's on board, is there anything else that'll stop you from making this booking?
Mm.
And see if there's any other objections. So you take it a step further. When I was at the cruise line, it's a lower ticket. We're a little bit more aggressive. Oh, you want to talk to your wife about it? What's her number? Let's get her on the phone right now.
Yeah.
I'll give her You know what I mean? So depending on how the call's going, you can do that, right? Like if I have a really good relationship with the guy, let's call her right now. She available? Is she there? But you always want to find out if that objection is the final objection,
Mm.
right?
And
Love
something
it.
like that, though, like that reminds me of almost like a car salesman as too. But that's what I'm saying. It really depends on the relationship that you
Mhm.
have with this person. Like if you're doing like a $500,000 yacht deal, I can't imagine you still using that tactics unless you've built a friendly rapport and you're like,
All right.
Shane, well, let's call the wife. Let's figure out these dates right now.
Yeah. Repeat client, someone that I've dealt with a couple times, 100%. Someone that's fresh might not have that same
Yeah,
approach,
there you go.
but I will have the approach that says, hey, when we speak to your wife next week, if she's okay with everything that we've discussed, is there anything else that might stop you from booking this?
As you
So you
should.
Mm.
still you still want to ask that.
And the reason why is because when he goes and talk to his wife, all that he's going to say is, you got to talk to Andy. We're going to figure this out. And they've already overcome everything. He's not going to talk about, well, the price is too expensive because Andy already overcame that.
Hmm.
Right.
Exactly.
Damn.
And
Also,
same thing goes into the sale of the yacht, right? Because we're focusing a lot on charter side, but same thing on the yacht side. Oh, I got to talk to my wife, see if this is the boat that she likes. All right, well, talk to her. When we come back a week from now, if she likes this boat, is there anything else that's going to stop you from buying this boat?
Yeah.
So it works with both sides, charter and sales.
And I feel like that too, it's almost like a man to man, like it's like a verbal man commitment, right? I,
Yeah.
it's something about it too. It's like, I mean, I
mm.
promise Andy, this is it. So like when the wife comes and said, oh my God, this yacht's beautiful. Great. Let's go sign him
Yep.
up. And then
That's
if,
it.
if not, it's like, hey, Shane, you told me that we're good to go. What's going on here?
Yeah. What happened? What changed?
Damn. Aside from yachts, Andy's going to be offering a sales course for any of you listening.
I see that actually. I see a book being written about clean eating and health and, how I started my $1 billion industry. Number one
Yep.
bestseller.
I listen, if you're selling a freaking sales book, I'll buy it. I love it. So it's been a phenomenal episode. We are coming up towards the end, so I got 3 final questions for you, my man. One is, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
So it's 3 words, and the 3 words are trust but verify, right? In business, in life, relationships, and anything, whatever you're reading, whatever you're hearing, whatever someone's telling you, you want to believe it, but don't just take that word. Verify. Do your own research. Make sure that what's being fed to you, what's being told to you is legit, right? Don't just take it for what it is. So that's very, very good piece of advice that I learned in my business life is trust but verify.
I love it. All right, Andy. So next question I have for you is this. The name of our podcast is the 1% Podcast, not because you have to be a billionaire like some of your clients might be. However, it's because of the fact that we believe that there is a way to be a 1%er in every avenue of life. It's really about how do you try to excel, or how do you push yourself towards being the greatest in something you want to achieve. So the question that we have for you is, what is your version of a 1% life?
Sure. So my version of the 1% life is being able to wake up every single morning and doing whatever you want to do that day, right? Like you've got your business dialed in, you've got your life dialed in, your relationships, and you can wake up in the morning and say, I'm gonna go do this today. If you can't do that, you still got to keep working to get to that 1%.
I love it.
My brother from another mother right here, dude.
That's it. And last question for you, man, and I'm sure that this should be a question that some people have, is how can people get in touch with you? How can they be a part of your ecosystem? What are some of the best ways to connect with you? Please shout yourself out.
Yeah, absolutely. So the easiest way is going to be on Instagram. The handle is Andy Yachts, AndyYachts. And I spell it out because a lot of people spell yachts incorrectly. They put a T and an S. It gets weird. AndyYachts.
Awesome. It will be in the show notes, everybody, as well. So, feel free to look there if you don't know how to spell yachts. But with that, honestly, hold on. Caveat on that. If you can't spell it, you probably can't afford it. Don't hit this man up if you can't spell it.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
It's like I always remembered reading that before I became an entrepreneur. I used to struggle with actually spelling entrepreneur, and then one day I saw this meme and it said, if you can't spell it, you probably ain't it. And I'm like, shit. But now I could spell entrepreneur without autocorrect, let me tell you.
There you go.
Prove it.
No, now I'm on the spot. I can't do it. Screw it. I'm not doing it. All right, Andy, thanks so much for sticking around, sharing some awesome insights into the world of yachting, the world of sales. Hang out for a minute after the show. I got a little thing to talk to you about. And as always, everybody, check out my man Andy. Check out what he's got going on. See if you can get in touch, especially if you could afford a yacht. He's the guy for you. Hit him up for your sales questions. And, of course, tune in next time for another episode of the 1% Podcast. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, follow, comment. Let us know what you thought of the episode. And we'll see you soon. As always, I'm your host, Vin. And
I'm Shane.
And that was Andy, everybody. See you later.
See you guys.